Welcome back to another episode of BSing Sports. I'm Ryan. Bill is here with me as most of the time. As you can see, we're feeling, we're kind of feeling ourselves here. We changed the background to a picture of us in case you guys didn't see enough of us. That is what we look like. Uh, um, so this show is going to be a little bit quicker. Got to be done by 6:50 because for those of you that may follow it, the small crowd that does, the NCAA wrestling championships are on at 7:00. So that's exactly where I'll be watching that for the next 3 hours, starting at that time. So we got to hurry up and make this quick. We're going to cover MLB and NFL free agency. There's a lot to talk about. A lot of things happened. Mr. Freddie Freeman signed. Guess we'll find out where. And there's still some unsigned big names in the MLB as well. And then in the NFL, a couple big splashes here and there. Bill, why don't you start us off, though, with Claude Giroux played his 1,000th game as a Flyer in Philadelphia, and he probably played his last. He sat out the game at Ottawa, didn't make the trip with the team because he's supposedly getting traded. Tell us about it.
Actually, about 3 hours ago, it was announced that he's being loaned to the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. He'll probably never even actually leave and go to Lehigh Valley. But the writing was on the wall prior to the game. Everybody knew it was coming. The fans knew. The opposing team knew. Everybody knew that this was going to be Claude Giroux's last game in Philadelphia. The question is, why hasn't a deal been done yet? That's really the question at the point in time. And from what I understand, based on everything that I'm looking at, it's because teams aren't offering what the Flyers are asking for a guy who's going to make your team significantly better. But yeah, outside of that, obviously he was the first star of the game. Those of you who don't know, in hockey, after the game, you got your 3 stars. They come out on the ice, they tip the crowd. And he was really clearly emotional, skating around the rink, toasting to the fans. 1,000 games, one franchise, that's a long time.
Yeah, and the longest tenured athlete in Philadelphia still to this point until a deal gets done. And he will be sitting out until at least after the trade deadline. They are going to hold him out for injury. The big spot that's been talked about is Florida. And they have been sitting out their top prospect in Owen Tippett in anticipation of a deal being done. However, both sides apparently haven't come to an agreement yet. And from everything I've read, that's, for the most part true that nobody's paying up what the Flyers want. And I think teams are a little bit hesitant because Giroux hasn't exactly committed to staying to wherever he gets traded to, as he is a free agent in the off season. So teams don't want to feel like they're getting handcuffed, paying a lot for a guy who's worth it, but then he leaves in the offseason and goes somewhere else, presumably back to Philadelphia or even Ottawa, where Giroux is originally from. So, moving on from that, because it's really all we got going on for hockey. There's not much to talk about in Flyers land. They're a bad team. MLB free agency, the big splash, a couple of them. Phillies actually made a couple of them. It's been a while since we've heard that the Phillies made a couple big splashes in free agency, but we'll start with the biggest fish to fry, and that's Freddie Freeman going to
the Los Angeles Dodgers. Freddie Freeman's deal is, keep in mind, he's 32 and a half years old. It's a 6-year contract for $162 million. That's an average annual salary of $27 million that the Dodgers are now going to be paying him. There was a deal. It's a really good deal. There was a lot of issues. I don't know if issues is the correct word for what happened with Freddie Freeman in Atlanta. But it was clear that they weren't as bought in on him as he seemed to be with them. They trade for Matt Olson of the Oakland Athletics and then immediately signed him to, I think it was a 7-year, $160-something million contract. And never even came close to offering that much money or that much time to Freddie Freeman. And then he turns around and goes to LA and he gets the deal he wants. So, good for Freddie Freeman, good for the Dodgers, and even good for the Braves because Matt Olson is not a bad first baseman.
Yeah, no, Matt Olson, as soon as they, signed Matt Olson, some people probably could have made some kind of guesses to the NL's getting a DH. Matt Olson plays Gold Glove defense at first base. He was not coming here just to be a DH. He was coming here to replace Freddie Freeman. So at that point, you knew that there was no deal between Freeman and the Atlanta Braves. My take on the deal with the Dodgers, though, is, like I said, it's a great one. Freddie Freeman has a skill set that doesn't age. He's a great hitter with good hands, and he plays good defense. Now, eventually, he will age. Father Time ages everything. But what I meant by is he's not, a speed burner where his legs are going to burn out in 2 years. So he's going to give you, 4 quality years probably in the field. And then, like I just pointed out, the NL switched to a full-time DH, so he'll probably spend the last 2 years of his career doing just that. And only having to worry about hit. So Freddie Freeman's a great hitter. This this could elevate his Hall of Fame status, playing out in the West where a lot of those ballparks are like jumping pads for baseballs. So yeah, this could be an interesting play out. And you had to know the Dodgers were always going to have their hands in big free agents, and they managed to land, the biggest one after losing Mad Max to the New York Mets. So
yeah, speaking of New York's, the opposite New York team, the Yankees have done nothing in free agency, which is a huge surprise.
Quite a few. Actually, I brought that same thing up today. There have been quite a few teams, I'm surprised. The St. Louis Cardinals and the New York Yankees, to name two, they haven't done anything. And one, the offseason was really short. The signing period at this point has only been about 3.5 weeks. That has a lot to do with it. Secondly, I think with the expanded playoff field, a lot of teams think they're good enough where they stand now to not have to go out and spend the extra money to get these guys. So that's probably if you have more teams in the playoffs, you probably just don't want to spend the extra money. You don't need to go out and buy a Trevor Story if you feel like you're a
correct.
Playoff contender.
Who is still in the market, by the way.
Yeah, and I think that won't last through spring training, but time will tell. We got about 3 weeks till the season starts. I'm actually going to the Braves home opening series on the 7th. It's the Saturday night game.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
they
did trade Gary Sanchez. I forgot about that. That was a long time coming. It just wasn't going to work out in New York. He'd been benched multiple times for his effort. His batting average was slowly going down, and outside of any games against the Orioles, he was just terrible. He's not a great defensive catcher, so he offered nothing for the Yankees. That trade was a long time coming. He needed a fresh change of scenery.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you that he needed a fresh change of scenery. One of the other big acquisitions in free agent market talk, Chris Bryant signed a 7-year, $182 million contract with the Colorado Rockies. To me, that was interesting from the Rockies standpoint, simply because they're not retaining Trevor Story, or at this point in time, they're not retaining Trevor Story.
They just dealt Nolan Arenado 2 years ago.
Exactly. They dealt Nolan Arenado out. And all of a sudden they turn around and they go get an infield outfield player by the name of Chris Bryant and pay him $26 million a year. It was just interesting to me that the Rockies out of nowhere decided they wanted to buy and they weren't in the market to still sell. I was confused by that, but I mean, good for Chris Bryant making his money. I was surprised he signed with Colorado over Philadelphia, to be honest with you, because it was rumored there for a while he was coming to Philly. But for the price that they paid, the Rockies paid for Chris Bryant, we got for just a little bit more money, Kyle Schwarber and Nick Castellanos.
A little bit less money.
A little bit less money. We got 9 years out of Kyle Schwarber and Nick Castellanos combined, obviously, for less money than the Rockies paid for Chris Bryant. So in my book, that is a significant win for the Phillies franchise. So good for you, Middleton. I owe you an apology. I called you cheap and many, many other terrible words the other day while I was watching Twitter, and you weren't signing any free agents. But good for you going over that luxury tax and letting Harper get some help around the lineup.
Yeah, no, this significantly bolsters the lineup. And what it does is it provides options because Schwarber can lead off as well. Castellanos, obviously being a right-handed bat, can split up your Didis, your Harpers, your Schwarbers to complement Real Muto and Hoskins. They don't have to be the only two big hitting righties. It allows Bohm to move down in the lineup. Maybe he can turn it around a little bit. It provides options for this team, and that's exactly what they need right now. So great. Not depth signing pieces, because obviously these guys will be everyday players. Presumably Schwarber will DH and Castellanos will be in left field, or vice versa. Both of them not really bad fielders. They just don't really move that well. But yeah, so it provides depth. It provides balance in the lineup, and who knows, might relieve some pressure off the pitching staff. Maybe Nola will have a little bit better of a season this year as well.
Speaking of Aaron, that's really bright. Sorry about that. Speaking of Aaron Nola, he did pitch.
Before we dive too far into the Phillies talk, one more big free agent signing. Carlos Correa signs a 3-year deal with the Minnesota Twins, which surprises me that somebody like him didn't get more years, but that average per year is massive.
Yeah, I'm looking down the list right now of all the franchise or the free agent signings. Those are the big names. Syndergaard goes to the Angels. He only got a 1-year deal anyway. Kershaw stays with the Dodgers. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Nelson Cruz gets signed again. 41 years old, playing DH for the Washington Nationals for $15 million. I mean, that's good for Nelly.
Dude can hit.
Dude can hit. I mean, there ain't nothing wrong with that. Dude can hit.
He's going to play 162 games this year as a DH, probably. Probably 155. I'm sure they'll give some of the regulars a day off. But
yeah, I am going to dive down the Phillies rabbit hole real quick. I watched the spring training game.
Kenley Jansen went to the Braves.
Kenley Jansen did go. Yeah, you're right.
Kenley Jansen's washed too.
So anyway, I watched the spring training game today. The Phillies played the Blue Jays, and other than the two eephus curveballs that Nola threw for home runs, he actually looked pretty solid, better than he looked all last year, really.
Well, one of them was a changeup, so the one to Vladdy was a changeup down in 0-2.
Right. Well, he definitely
terrible pitch.
Yeah, it should have been further
it should
down.
have been a strike, and it was a strike for way too long.
But other than those two pitches, he looked pretty good for his first outing of the spring. So that's promising. The Phillies are going to need him to pitch, right around the a little bit above the 3.1 ERA mark for them to be extremely successful.
And the Blue Jays can mash. They've good lineup.
Yeah, I mean, once all the free agents come in for the Phillies and the free agents go to the Jays, those are two lineups that are just gonna. One of the best things I've seen on Twitter so far is everybody in Philadelphia is saying "F defense, hit dingers."
Yeah. I mean, in all honesty, that's the way baseball's moving. Nobody cares about. There was also the other
one was supposed to be a sinker.
Yeah,
it didn't sink.
Yeah, I know the one to Vladdy definitely wasn't a curveball. It was either a changeup or a sinker, something that had some down and in movement to the righty. But I have high expectations for this team this year. 88 wins maybe. We'll get into our MLB prediction.
Yeah, we'll do that on another show. I think they're probably right around the 88 to 90 win mark as well. But we'll get into it.
But
switching over to NFL free agency.
Yeah.
A
lot of big names, Tom Brady. After Tom Brady returned, it seemed to kind of, push a domino effect around the league. Allen Robinson, 3 years, $45 million to the LA Rams because they needed more receivers.
Yeah, because they needed more receivers.
Yeah.
Von Miller signs a 6-year deal for $120 million with the Buffalo Bills.
I swear Von Miller's like 40 years old. I feel like he's been in the league forever, man.
32 years and 9 months old. So by the time the next season starts, 33 years old.
That's crazy.
I mean,
it feels like he's so much older than that.
The team gets an out after 3 years on the Von Miller contract, but still.
Yeah. Speaking of the Rams, Matthew Stafford just signed that massive extension, 4 years, $150 million, I think.
I don't know the exact matrix of it, but yeah, and from what I understand, most of it's guaranteed.
And from what I understand, his plan is to retire after the contract. So
yeah, good for Matt Stafford playing in Detroit all those years. We've said it several times on the show. Playing on a crappy team in Detroit, then he switches up and goes to LA where he has immediate success and good $160 million. Thank you, Tim, for being on top of that for us. Just so if there's any newcomers on here, you guys got to understand that Ryan and I don't have interns to do all this work for us. We got to do the research on our own, and a lot of times we do it on the fly. So if we're wrong, we apologize. We usually fix it shortly after, or somebody in the comment section will correct us.
Pretty close. We're not up here cluelessly, acting like Matt Stafford signed an 8-year deal for $3 million.
Correct. Yeah, we usually are right around in the ballpark. So yeah, J.C. Jackson, the cornerback from New England, goes to L.A. for 5 years.
The Chargers are stacking up on that defense because they traded for Khalil Mack too.
The AFC West is the whole division right now is just absolutely stacked. The whole division is. That's going to be a heck of a division.
We haven't even touched on what the Raiders have done yet. Devonte Adams.
Yeah. Obviously, 2 days ago, Devonte Adams gets traded to used to be Oakland, the Las Vegas Raiders.
Oakland. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, for a first round draft pick and a second round draft pick in this year's upcoming draft.
If I'm the Packers, I feel like I just got robbed. And if I'm Aaron Rodgers, I feel like I just got played.
According to reports, Rodgers knew that Adams wasn't going to be on the roster when he re-signed his contract.
I don't know how much I'd buy that.
I can't imagine that's the case. Rodgers decided, oh yeah, I'll come back to Green Bay. No worries. My favorite target the last 5 years.
Number one wide receiver when I've been, complaining about not having weapons for years. I mean, They have to go wide receiver in the first round. Like, there's no way.
I don't know what the GM over there is. The other big funny joke is Rodgers just signed this big contract, and everybody's like, "Oh, Green Bay's going to use that first round pick from the Raiders to draft a quarterback." That would be funny. Randy Gregory absolutely dissed the crap out of Dallas, which I love.
Oh, man, he pulled a Josh McDaniels. You remember when McDaniels was committed to being the head coach at Indianapolis a few years ago?
Yeah, and then decided to stay with the Patriots. That's right.
Yeah.
But Randy Gregory agreed to sign the exact same contract to play in Denver that Dallas offered him. And he decided after saying, yeah, I'll play for Dallas, he turned it around and went to Denver. Absolutely love that. So Randy Gregory, good for you, little buddy.
Dude, yeah, the AFC West is going to be, absolutely bonkers. I mean, the big winners, honestly, the big winners are everybody except the Chiefs, and the Chiefs are the big losers. Yeah, they just signed Juju Smith-Schuster to finally give Patrick Mahomes a second wide receiver weapon, but their defense looks
And that division, again, is going to put up points. Their division is
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess they're really just relying on Patrick Mahomes to make magic happen on the offense all the time.
Maybe
but
they'll finally get Clyde Edwards-Helaire involved the way that they should.
they failed for 2 straight seasons. I'm not sure it's going to change.
All the comps to Brian Westbrook and Andy Reid being there and what. I mean, it's
Yeah, exactly, Caden. We lost Matthew. We lost Ward.
Yeah, the Chiefs
Not we.
are
I'm
big
sorry, the
losers
Chiefs.
right now. They really got to make a splash on defense. The offense can keep up. As long as you got Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, they can keep up. But they need to do something with the defense because the rest of the Raiders haven't done necessarily a lot with the defense, but the rest of the division has. So.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. We're going to talk about it several times over the next couple of months about how good that division is.
One big issue. They finally got a franchise quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, for at least the next 6 years, yeah. Chandler Jones, outside linebacker from Arizona, goes to also the Raiders.
Yeah.
I'm looking at.
And then they traded Yannick Ngakoue, right?
They did trade Yannick Ngakoue. Hassan Reddick signs a 3-year, $45 million contract with the Philadelphia Eagles, making their front seven even more fierce. Listen, the NFC is there for the taking for any team at this point in time. The AFC has just stacked and stacked and stacked and stacked and stacked, but the NFC, you guys got some catching up to do.
I mean, the Rams just won the Super Bowl, so until the AFC.
Okay, so outside of the Rams.
Well, I mean, Brady's back too.
I'm just going down there.
Brady's back. They re-signed Godwin.
They get Russell Gage from Atlanta.
Let's not go ahead and scratch those guys off.
All right, everything else like minor name stuff.
To comment on your comment, John, Gilmore's washed at this point. Not really a huge deal to me.
That comment actually to me, I agree. I think there's 2, maybe possibly
outside of Tampa
3.
and LA, Seattle's no longer a contender.
Correct.
Arizona never really was a contender. They were always a pretender.
Mm-hmm. There's not really any other teams that I would say like, they're definitely contenders. But that's a really good statement right there.
Yeah, because I mean, losing Adams hurts. I mean, everybody kind of crapped on the Packers anyway. I mean, a sleeper pick would be the 49ers, but that really all depends on how much Trey Lance really progressed and watching Jimmy Garoppolo play.
Having said that, Jimmy Garoppolo is still a 49er, so we don't know about anything there.
Yeah, I mean, that's another unfolding situation, too. Keep an eye on Garoppolo to the Panthers, Garoppolo to the Giants.
The Giants just signed Tyrod Taylor as well.
Yeah, to back up Daniel Jones, but I don't know how long he's going to be backing him up for.
Probably the first
Tyrod's
couple of weeks.
never played bad. He just can't. He's always been super unlucky. He'd always get hurt, and then he'd lose his starting job to somebody who's better than him.
Well, I mean, when he was playing with the Chargers and Herbert took over, it was obvious Herbert was going to take over. But having a medical guy puncture your lung is not.
What happened to him in Buffalo too before he landed in LA?
That's true. You want to jump into our rankings?
Let's touch on this real quick. So the Broncos aren't contenders. So the Broncos have had the best defense in that division for some time. They really have only been lacking a quarterback. I mean, they had the running backs in place. Now that Devontae is going to be a bell cow back for years. They have 2 very good wide receivers who just haven't been able to get the football on a regular basis, in Judy and Sutton. Their tight ends, whatever. But, I mean, Russ just elevates that whole team. Their offensive line's really not that bad. And like I said, they've had the best defense in that division for some time. So to say that they're not a contender, I could see them making a push for the playoffs.
You're going to get 3 playoff
teams.
teams.
Hard to predict, though.
You're going to get 3 playoff teams out of that division.
Yeah, absolutely. But picking which 3, good luck.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm with you.
The something to consider is, the Chargers, they didn't make playoffs, but with that comes not, getting a playoff team schedule. And it's official. Panthers have just got Claude Giroux.
Yep, it happened on air. So you heard it here first, ladies and gents.
Yeah, I mean, it at least includes Owen Tippett.
Which is good for the Flyers. We need to get young, and as you already pointed out, Giroux hasn't committed to stay anywhere. For all we know, he'll be back in the offseason.
Yeah.
You just don't know. So many uncertainties there.
This is interesting, and I know Caden's a Raiders fan, so he has a little bit of bias, but I definitely disagree with his argument. I mean, I don't think he's quite rationalizing how much Russ Wilson makes the Denver Broncos better. Like, they were literally only missing a quarterback. There's not another position that you could say that they're the weakest in the division at.
They just won 8 games with a combination of Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater all season long.
Down the division, go down each position, wide receiver group, running back room, offensive line, defense. There's not a position that they're the weakest at in the division, period.
Yeah, and I'm with you there. Defense wins championships. So the reason I'm saying this, so everybody else can see it.
Yeah. Collectively, they're a great team. They just have had terrible quarterback play. Yeah,
it's been unfortunate for them since Peyton retired.
It's literally a mirror of when Peyton came to Denver. Now, granted, Russ is not Peyton, but it's the same effect.
But this team, as you've already pointed out, gets significantly better by having a quarterback of Russell Wilson's caliber. So I don't think they finished last place in that division. Now, having said that, I could be wrong with that comment simply because of how good the rest of the division is, but it won't be because of their own shortcomings. It'll be because
hell, they could finish last place, but I mean, 2 teams in that division would be 9-8, and then the other 2 would be 8-9. They're just gonna beat up on each other all year.
Yeah, I mean, potentially that's what you could be looking at.
Let's go ahead and jump into our rankings for wide receivers this week.
Let's do it. I think you had texted me this earlier, and I agree with you.
1 and 2 are easy. It's just a matter of what order you have them in.
I mean, it's Cooper Kupp is my number 2.
Not as easy for you, but
Cooper Kupp is my number 2. Jamar Chase my number 1.
Yeah, not as easy for you, I guess, but easy for most.
Okay, go ahead.
You're missing number 1, first of all.
I said Jamar Chase is my number 1 wide receiver. I understand that Justin Jefferson is there. I get it. I understand that Justin Jefferson should be there. But while he's got Kirk Cousins throwing him the football, Jamar Chase has Joe Burrow throwing him the football. And we're talking about a dynasty league. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase are going to be together for a long time.
So you're taking a 29-year-old Cooper Kupp who has a 33-year-old Matthew Stafford throwing him the football over a 22-year-old Justin Jefferson? I
am, yes.
Yeah, see, not as easy for you, but easy for
That's fine. People. You can feel that way.
And so the top 3 or 4 probably should be about the same consensus wise. Obviously, you have something different. I also am going to put Jamar Chase slightly ahead of Justin Jefferson just because of the quarterback that's in place. And then number 3 for me is CeeDee Lamb.
I have CeeDee Lamb on my list, but he is not nearly that high.
Okay.
Statistically, when Amari Cooper is not on the field, Dak Prescott is like a 60% completion percentage quarterback. I get how talented CeeDee Lamb is. I'm not taking anything away from CeeDee Lamb. But after the Amari Cooper trade, Dak Prescott fell really hard on my rankings. I know where I had him in the quarterback rankings. He fell real hard. So CeeDee Lamb for me is not at 3. I get his age. I get his ability. But with Dak Prescott throwing the ball, and until I see Dak Prescott be effective without Amari Cooper, I'm going to struggle to put CeeDee Lamb higher.
Yeah, so what causes me to put him that high is, 1, the Cowboys now have to utilize CeeDee Lamb appropriately because he is the main target in the offense, whereas he was not the main target. He was splitting targets with Amari, so that he would be getting force-fed. in a similar fashion to number one wide receivers that should be, getting force fed. So he'll just see a higher target share. And like I said, he's 22 years old with a quarterback who's 28 throwing him the ball. So he's young. They both have rapport together. They have some time. And if we're talking over the span of careers, I would easily take CeeDee Lamb over some of the older guys.
Okay. I mean, that's fair.
So who's your number 3?
Number 3 was Justin Jefferson. No, Justin Jefferson.
Right.
Yeah.
And then number 4 for you?
Deebo Samuel.
Whew. Not a terrible pick. Actually, I could get in the ballpark with that. But I got A.J. Brown.
You got A.J. Brown at 4?
Yeah.
Okay, I've got A.J. Brown at 5.
At 5, I have Cooper Kupp.
Okay, so we're really similar other than where I have Cooper Kupp and where you put CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah. I mean, probably not. The back end of my list gets a little wonky. There's going to be a big name that's left off of there.
Okay. Who's your number 6?
Number 6. This is where it gets a little rocky.
Okay.
I got Jalen Waddle.
So I like Jalen Waddle, and he's number 12 for me. So I've already ruined that for everybody. I got Jalen Waddle at number 12. I do like Jalen Waddle. However, I am not a fan of Tua Tagovailoa. I've said it since day one. Oh, by the way, congratulations on over a year doing this, Ryan.
Oh, yeah. We've been doing this for over a year. Congrats.
Yeah.
And thank you to all the loyal listeners and followers who have been following us for over a year.
You make it possible. Thank you very much. But so I'm a fan of Jalen Waddle. He's got phenomenal talent. He's going to be great. He is going to be great. And I firmly believe that. So he's number 12 for me.
Actually, Tua is the only reason that I didn't put Jalen Waddle ahead of Cooper Kupp.
Yes. If Tua was not his quarterback and there was a real run and gun or just gun quarterback in Miami right now, I'd say Waddle would be higher on my list as well. So sorry, what number did you have him at? You had him at 6, right?
Yep.
Okay, I've got Stephon Diggs at number 6.
I have Diggs in the next group of 3. My next 3 go Adams, Hill, Diggs.
Okay, so we're in the same spot because I go Diggs, Adams, Hill.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, and really, those 3 to me are interchangeable.
And I agree with you. So I do have them. They're like 6, 7, and 8, but I could have very easily gone different ways. Derek Carr just got that much better and more appealing in every league.
Yeah. Derek Carr, I don't quite remember my quarterbacks list, but now he kind of slides up there. His value just jumps significantly.
I agree. Hunter Renfrow was already playing out of his mind, and now you add Devonte Adams with Darren Waller there.
That was with Darren Waller, missing a lot of last year.
Exactly. So Derek Carr also climbs up in my quarterback rankings. Number 9, I have CeeDee Lamb.
Number 9, I have Deontay Johnson.
Okay.
25-year-old wide receiver who Mitch Trubisky signing actually doesn't hurt his value at all. A lot of people thought that they were going to go after a quarterback with a big arm that would open up Chase Claypool, who's more of a downfield threat. However, Mitch Trubisky is not known for having a solid arm. So the underneath routes are still going to continue to be there. The short passing game is still going to be there. And Deontay Johnson has lived off of volume since he's come into the league.
I do like that. Number 10, Deontay Johnson.
Number 10, T. Higgins.
See, I knew you were going to put 2 Bengals in the top 12.
T. Higgins is a beast.
He is. I got him at 13. I've got him at 13. He's so I'm two spots away is where I've got T. Higgins sitting. I've got number 11 for me is Scary Terry. It's the first time Carson Wentz. I said this last week and I was incorrect. However, I'm going to say it, or 2 weeks ago, and I was incorrect to say that's the first time he's had a receiver go over 1,000 yards receiving. Carson Wentz, that is. But putting Carson Wentz with Terry McLaurin makes Terry McLaurin better too.
Yeah,
Wentz did not play as bad.
He's played in his career by far.
Correct. Wentz did not play as bad as people are trying to make it out to be. Yes, down the stretch he played poorly, but he still threw for 4,000 yards, 27-7. That's a pretty good quarterback situation there that Washington just upgraded into. So again, the best quarterback that Terry McLaurin's going to get to play with is Carson Wentz as of right now. Obviously, it'll be the best one that he has played with to this point. So that's why Terry McLaurin is my number 11.
I'll give you a list of people that I have off of my top 12. Deebo Samuel, DK Metcalf, Chris Godwin, and Terry McLaurin. So number 11 for me is actually DJ Moore.
I would like to hear your theory. I want to hear why.
He's 24 years old,
Mhm.
and he's already been in the league 4 years.
Mhm.
He's a target hog who just got signed to a massive contract extension, so now they have to justify it by building the offense around him.
True.
And he's had absolutely horrendous quarterback play since he's been in the league. Like it can't get any worse. It can only go up, or it can stay the same. And he's still been a wide receiver 18 every single year. Now, since he's only 24 years old, realistically, I would take 8 more years of being a wide receiver 2 in any fantasy league ever.
That's true. Okay. No, I wasn't putting it down. I like DJ Moore.
Yeah,
I do.
If you told me, DJ Moore was eventually going to get a better quarterback, I'd be like, holy crap. Then he, jumps to fringe wide receiver 1. But if you're going to tell me he's going to be wide receiver 18 for the next 8 years, I'm good with that too.
Hey, I like it. I do like it. I'm not putting it down. Obviously, the guys that I have out of my time, I haven't heard your 12 yet. Go ahead.
Actually, you know what? My number 12, I'll probably go Godwin. I'll probably go Chris Godwin. He's still pretty young. He's 25 years old. He just got a nice contract, and Brady came back. To me, that's the only – I think him being a year younger is probably what separates him and Scary Terry.
Okay. Fair enough.
But, DK Metcalf I'm super low on.
I didn't take – Metcalf's not on my list.
Debo Samuel I'm super low on. I actually think Ayuk's going to get a huge boost with Trey Lance being there.
That might be the case, but with where it sits and what I've seen so far, Samuel needed to be on my list.
Yeah, and outside of last year, he's had some injury history as well, so that's why I kind of have him sitting around the 15 area.
Another name we left off the list, still relatively young. What's he, 28? Amari Cooper, now playing with Deshaun Watson, who, surprised we didn't bring this up. Deshaun Watson yesterday was traded to the Cleveland Browns after he told them earlier in the day that they were out of his sweepstake.
Yeah, it sounded like the Texans said the Browns were out. I don't think Deshaun Watson said the Browns were out.
That might be the case. And immediately they give him $43 million more, restructure the contract. So the way it looks from the outside looking in, it looks like Cleveland knows that Deshaun Watson will be suspended for at least a portion of this season and are only paying him $1 million for this season. That was interesting to me.
I wonder if that means they're just going to hold on to Baker, let him ride out his contract.
Maybe, unless they can get some value for him from a team who's desperate for a quarterback. Would you say that Baker Mayfield is better than Sam Darnold?
Yeah, probably.
So, there are teams that might have value in Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, there are. But, I mean, at what point, what's a fair return for Baker Mayfield? Mind you did draft him number 1 overall, which doesn't really matter at this point, but to some people it does.
I'd say fair compensation is a second round and maybe a later round pick. Fair compensation for Baker Mayfield.
I was thinking it's a late second or an early third, something like that.
Yeah, I would say I would agree with that.
Where do I have Devonta Smith, Timmy?
Well, you got to keep in mind right now the Colts have Sam Erlinger as their starting quarterback, so they're pretty desperate for a quarterback right now too.
I think they draft. Oh, well, they can't because they don't have a first round pick.
That's right.
They could. Then I don't expect too many quarterbacks to be gone in the first round, but
it's true.
I could see them sneaking Matt Corral or Malik Willis or something like that in the second round.
They also, again, they don't have a first round pick. I was about to say they have the 13th pick in the draft. It's not like they're crazy low.
Wrong. We have that pick in the draft,
and it's the 15th pick. You're right. I'm sorry. My apologies.
But where do I have Devonta Smith, Timmy? He sits at 19 or 20. I wouldn't even consider him in the realm of wide receiver 1 type areas until we get an offense that's built around throwing the football.
Yeah, and until Jalen Hurts proves that he's capable of sitting in the pocket and firing the ball downfield. He struggled the last 3 games of the year because he couldn't use his legs, and then obviously in the playoff game against the Buccaneers. So until we get a quarterback that's more of a throw first, I have Smith at 22.
I would put Elijah Moore, Jerry Jeudy, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and probably Brandon Ayuk above Devonta Smith.
So would I. And I obviously would put T. Higgins up there as well because I didn't have him on my
T. Higgins?
14.
Okay.
Yeah, he just missed my top 12. Yeah. And for those of you wondering why we do 12 every week, it's because we're usually in 12-man dynasty leagues. So we go top 12, like those positional off of the board. That's why we do it. But outside of that, I don't have a whole bunch more news.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just been crazy, the NFL movements, it's just every day there's something different. It's so nuts. Like, it's so hard to give my take on where these players will land because I feel like a lot of these teams aren't done.
Yeah, for instance, earlier today, the Philadelphia Eagles restructured Darius Slay's contract to save $11 million more in cap space, and Tyrann Mathieu is in Philadelphia. He was spotted in Philadelphia a few hours ago. So there's a chance that the Honey Badger goes to Philly. That would be cool. Just saying.
Yeah, it would be cool. They did re-sign Anthony Harris to a one-year contract, but I'm kind of curious if Kyle Hamilton, the safety from Notre Dame, happens to fall to their first pick, which I believe is 14 in the draft, then I wouldn't mind, exploring that option as well.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is our defense is old. It needs help, especially on the back half. Darius Slay is your only confirmed starting player in the secondary right now. So you need help. Another rumored name was Patrick Peterson, but he's pretty old.
I wouldn't even kick the tires on it.
He's lost a step unless he's coming to you on like a $1 million deal. He's not worth it to me.
And he won't command that because of his pedigree. So
correct. Obviously, Dad. They released Fletcher Cox. He tested free agency, but I don't think there was ever a time where Fletcher Cox wasn't going to be an Eagle this season. They just wanted to free up some cap space so that they didn't have to pay him the additional $8 million. I believe that Roseman's not done making deals. I just don't know what it's going to entail. As Ryan and I and Jake from Talking 215 have mentioned several times, when you have 3 first-round draft picks, they're all bound to get paid at the exact same time. So it's likely they don't keep all 3 first-round draft picks. They're probably making a move somewhere. That's something to look forward to.
First round next year, where there's supposed to be better offensive talent.
Yeah, which is, again, something that could very easily happen.
Yeah, I mean, or they could combine 2 of those picks, trade up, get you a guy like Derek Stingley, a cornerback from LSU.
I would like that option.
There's so many things that we can talk about, and the draft is still, a little, probably a month and a half away at this point. So we'll definitely have its own segment, probably 2. There's a lot to cover with the NFL draft, potential moves that could be made. Somebody brought up earlier, I think it was John, to Barkley getting traded on draft day. I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants traded Barkley, but however, I don't think they do, just because Brian Daboll will be in there now, an offensive pedigree head coach. I think they can finally utilize Barkley in the way that he should be utilized if he can stay healthy.
Yeah, also, I don't get the feel that the Giants are in a complete rebuild. They signed a receiver. Who did they sign last year, the receiver?
Galladay?
Thank you. The one that didn't play. Didn't catch a single touchdown pass. I get that. But they don't seem like they're in a rebuild to me. And Saquon Barkley is a good piece to try and build around before you find his replacement, that is. Yeah, he's got injury history, and I get that. But while he is on the field, he is a difference maker. So I don't think Barkley gets traded. But if he does, I think it would signal to everybody around the league that the Giants are officially in a rebuild. But I don't think they are.
I don't think anybody in the NFC East is truly in a rebuild, because anybody in the NFC East can win the NFC East any year.
And it's been proven to happen year after year after year. There hasn't been a back-to-back conference. Yeah, the Philadelphia Eagles. That's right. Yeah. As Ryan said at the kickoff of this episode, it was going to be a short show. We stayed true to that. So unfortunately, Claude Giroux is no longer a Flyer, but hopefully he'll be back in the offseason. Congrats to him and his wonderful career in Philadelphia. Sorry we couldn't get you a cup.
More details will come on that later, but the only detail that I have right now is when they hang 28 in the rafters at Wells Fargo Center. I'll be at that game.
I intend to also make the trip for that one as well. So we'll figure it out.
Yes, sir.
Right, outside of that, sorry, go ahead. No, I'm good. I was getting ready to do our little sign off there.
All right, send it.
All right. So thanks for hanging out with BSing Sports, everybody who tuned in, where we do a little bit of BSing and talk a lot of sports. Have a great night.
Have a good night, guys.